Okay, last procedure here on final assembly is to check the sealing of the drive. So, top, drain plugs back in, new gasket, lower unit, drain plugs back in, new gasket, and this is the level of SX DPS drive. So this plug right here is the actual level that you fill the drive up to. Do not use the dipstick. It's a reference if you want to use it, but realistically what you're supposed to do with the drive level when you fill the drive up is to fill the drive from the bottom all the way up until you see oil start to come out of here. At that point, stop the pump and let it sit. Do not, don't wait. I mean, just wait. What you need to do is put some rags under here and wait until you see the oil stop coming out of this hole. Once it stops coming out of the hole, put the top plug back in. Snug that up, take your filler off, put the drain plug in with a new gasket right away. That's very critical with these drives because the cone clutch is right here. A lot of times what technicians do that don't understand this is they don't know that that's the level plug because they have a dipstick here. So what they do is they don't take this out, they take this out, they pump the drive up until they see it on the dipstick. Now, the dipstick has quite a range, as you can see here. So this is, so they think is the full mark of the drive, and that's going to be overfilled. So if I hold that drain plug here about where it is, it's actually about in the middle where the bottom of the hole is. So if you fill it all the way up to the top of this spot, then it's going to be overfilled. So if realistically down here someplace is the full part. That's why you have to use this fill plug. Just like a regular alpha drive, when you're filling it up on the side, when you see your or an outboard lower unit, you fill it up till you see the oil level come out. But people don't understand that because they don't take the cover off. They don't take the back cover off, they see this, they pull this out and they, oh, it's a dipstick, fill it up. Nope. So if they do overfill it, then what's going to happen is the lower gear is the forward gear on most all drives except SX, where you're changing the shift cable lever to the other side. And basically what's going to happen then is this drive would be forward and when the cone goes up. But that's the very, very seldom do you see that. So DPS is a very common drive, and that drive, if you overfill it, what happens is the recess in the cup where the cone is going to drop into is fill a gear lube. And the cone will drag as it goes down because the gear lube is so viscous. So when you shift it into gear, it takes a little while for that cone to seep into the cup. So the owner's complaint's going to be, I shifted into forward and then nothing happens for 2 or 3 seconds, then suddenly it goes in gear. If I shift into reverse, it goes right into gear, okay? So make sure you use that level plug. That's really critical. All right, we're gonna pressure test it. So I have a pressure tester here, and what I like to do is I like to pressure test it up to about 5 PSI, and then go up to like 12 PSI. So I'm gonna pump this up. And you got a lot of airspace in here, so it's going to take a little while to get it up to 5 PSI. Tap on the gauge and see if it settles on that 5. And it's pretty close there. I'm going to switch sides so I can kind of line it up. And it's a touch over when I tap on it, but I want a reference right there where it settles down. And I'm just gonna let this sit. So I go away, I clean up my bench, I wait 10 or 15 minutes, and I come back. If it holds at 5 PSI, after 10 or 15 minutes, I'm gonna pump it up to 10, 12 PSI. Let that sit, same thing, make sure you get a reference, and then go away, come back, and then you'll have a good drive that holds pressure. The lower pressure, I like to put low pressure in it because you're not flexing the seals as much. So you're getting a realistic reading on a drive that is sitting in the water, does not have any real pressure on it. It has the water pressure on the outside. When you start the drive up and you start to drive the boat, then the gear lube and the gears and everything makes friction. So now the drive starts to heat up. That's where you're gonna get that 10, 12 PSI in it. So the seal will move slightly when you heat the drive up. So you wanna make sure that it seals on the surface at rest. That's why I like to use 5 PSI. Some people use 2 or 3 PSI, harder to read. And then at 12 PSI, you're physically gonna put some pressure on that seal to make sure that seal holds. So the 2 pressures are important to do. 10, 15 minutes I like to wait. I've got plenty of stuff to clean up while I'm doing this. Go get my gear lube pump ready, This should be done every season. Every time that boat comes out of the water and the gear lube's changed for winterization or it's changed when it comes in for service, it absolutely needs to be pressure tested. Not just because the gear lube's milky, but it should always be pressure tested because a very, very slight amount of water, you may not see it. It may still not be a problem, but it's going to show up in a pressure test and it's going to take 10 or 15 minutes for that problem to occur. Okay, so we're pretty much wrapping that up, getting the drive ready to fill back up. Again, your fill marker's there, and the drive would be ready to go back in service.